Now, back in the day when stagecoaches crossed all across Texas, and that's how folks got around, there was one stagecoach. It was on its way to Columbus, Texas. And while it's going, it's coming up on a town called Camden, and the passengers, they're all sitting close together, knees to knees, and they didn't have any smartphones to distract themselves with, so they had to talk to each other. So they're all being polite, chatting. Most of them were from Texas, but there was one Yankee-looking feller. People, they were nice enough to him anyway, even though he was probably a Yankee. But they're coming up on a town about just a couple miles away. One of the passengers says, "Oh, look, we're just a couple miles from Camden here." Well, the Yankee, he said, "Well, thank goodness, because I am starving. I could eat like a hound right now. I am starved." One of the other passengers, this fellow with a big old 10-gallon hat, he kind of eyes the Yankee. He says, "You ain't from around here, are you? You don't know the tricks that they pull in Camden." Now, sure, there's an inn there. That inn, it's got a restaurant, it's got a kitchen, but they're tricky over there. See what they do, and I know I've taken this stagecoach many times. What they do every time the coach stops there, they charge the passengers 4 bits for a meal. They promise you full meal, 3 courses, but once you sit down, they start rushing you out the door again. And they tell you that the stagecoach is in some kind of hurry to go into Columbus. They got to deliver the mail or something, and they rush you out the door before you can eat that food. And that same food, they serve that to the next stagecoach and the next one, the next passengers. It's an old trick in Camden. Well, the Yankee said, "Well, be that as it may, I'll be eating in Camden. I'll be eating well." Well, the fellow with the 10-gallon hat, he said, "Maybe you will, but you'll lose your seat here on the stagecoach." The Yankee kind of looked at him and said, "Care to make it interesting?" "Well, sure. What are you thinking?" Yankee said, "Well, whoever loses pays for dinner. I'll bet you I will eat well in that inn, and I won't lose my seat on this stagecoach." Well, the man with the hat, he tipped it. He said, "I hate to take your money, sir, but if you want to make it interesting, how about the whole stagecoach? Whoever loses pays for dinner for the entire stagecoach. As for me, I was fine waiting until we got to Columbus, because that's the only place you can really eat." The Yankee said, "All right, it's a deal. It's a bet. You know what? Let's throw in cigar and wine too. Make it real interesting." And so they come upon Camden, they get there, and they get out at the inn, and they made sure they both had the money to put up, but they had the passengers start off by paying for their own entrance into the dining hall at the innkeeper, brought them all in, 4 bits a person, brings all the passengers in, sits them all down, and just as the man with that 10-gallon hat said, just as he predicted, the food wasn't ready. "I'm sorry, folks, it'll be a couple minutes here." And the food wasn't ready, and it wasn't ready, and time passed, and they're sitting there. Finally, they start bringing out this big, lavish feast: turkey, mashed potatoes, gravy, bread, all just things you can't even imagine. Huge feast they laid in front of people, and the Yankee starts loading his plate up. Well, as soon as they did that, the other folks, they hadn't gotten but 2 bites of food in their mouth before that stagecoach owner and the innkeeper, they both come running in saying, "The stage is leaving. The stage is leaving. You got to hurry up and get on it. It's leaving. They got to deliver the mail in Columbus tonight. You better hurry up. You're going to lose your seats." Well, everybody stood up and, still hungry, walked out. But that Yankee, he just stayed there, sat there in his seat. Well, the innkeeper said, "You better be going, mister. You're going to lose your seat." I said, "Well, whether I do or whether I don't, I'm finishing my meal." The innkeeper looked at him. "You know how much that stagecoach ticket costs? You better hurry up, mister. You're gonna miss your seat on the stagecoach." The other fellow tipped his 10-gallon hat as he's walking out with the other passengers. The Yankee says, "Well, I paid for this meal, and I'm gonna enjoy it. I'm staying, enjoying my coffee. I'm staying." So he sat there and he ate and he ate and he ate that whole turkey that nobody else had even had a chance to touch. And he ate all the fixins and all the green beans and sides and everything. And he just ate and sat at his leisure. The innkeeper's just staring at him, saying, "What is with this guy?" The innkeeper came over and said, "Anything else for you?" "Well, I could use a little dessert. I wouldn't mind maybe a bowl of milk and bread, some milk and bread for dessert." "Fine." The innkeeper brings it to him and sets it down. The Yankee said, "Well, I can't eat this with my hands. I could use a spoon to eat it with." "Spoon?" Spoon, the innkeeper starts looking around. What? There were just 24 spoons just a minute ago here. And they were silver spoons too, real silver. What do you reckon? The Yankee said, well, those passengers, maybe they wanted to get their money's worth. You see, you charged them 4 bits a person for a meal they didn't get to eat. Maybe they figured they'd take their 4 bits some other place. Those my silver spoons. I'll see to it. They're going to pay for that crime. And so the innkeeper, he goes and he rustles up the sheriff in town. The sheriff goes riding out, galloping out, chasing after that stagecoach. Yankee just sits there enjoying my coffee. Sitting there enjoying his meal. Well, about an hour later, the sheriff comes back riding his horse, and he brings the stagecoach and all those people back with that innkeeper. He's hollering, saying one of them has stolen his good silver, and there's going to be heck to pay. And once they find that thief in person, so the stagecoach comes back, and the Yankee comes walking out of the restaurant, calm as could be. And he sat down and he took his seat on the stagecoach, nodded to the man with the 10-gallon hat on the stagecoach. He said, well, I guess we're ready to be taken off. The innkeeper said, taken off? Not till I find the thief that took my silver spoons. The Yankee said, well, now that I recall, I'm sorry, I must have forgotten, but I think you'll find all of your silver spoons. They're sitting inside the coffee pot on the table. I'm sorry, it just skipped my mind. But you'll find all your silvers accounted for. So the stagecoach took off down the road toward Columbus, with that innkeeper shouting curses worse than a sailor, mad as a blind hornet, and the stage driver mad because they'd made him late, and the man in the 10-gallon hat mad because he had to shell out the money to cover everybody's meals. But that Yankee and all the rest of the passengers, they were laughing to beat the band as they rode off to Columbus.